Hi there, my name is Sandor Chernoff, and I'm doing this screencast for all of the IOE faculty who were recently asked to submit some content for the new and improved Institute of Education website. We put some instructions with it, but thought we'd wait and see what the feedback was like before we started to help you guys through any difficulties you were finding. So thank you for everyone that's given their feedback, and hopefully this is just a good follow-up for everybody, and then also can speak to each of your sort of queries. Yeah, I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Never done a screencast before, so hopefully it doesn't have any glitches or it's not too difficult to follow. I'm working on this with Marty Hodgins, and we started this last year at the request of John O'Neill, and the idea that we came because Massey was updating all of their web pages. The IOE's website was pretty lacking and difficult to deal with, yeah, so the idea was that we would have the faculty self-author their own pages, so that the content could be really representative of the work that you're doing, and also really accurate and up to date. So I'm just going to go through, hang on, let me just bring this up. What I'm going to go through is why you have been asked to do this, what it is exactly that we're asking you to do, how you do this, and cover any sort of little bits and bobs that might be a bit of a pain to deal with, and you know what's for what purpose, what's the future, I guess, of you self-authoring your own pages. So yeah, as I mentioned, the goals of the IOE reboot, site reboot, was to first and foremost to realign the website with the IOE Strategic Plan 2020. I've included that in the file that you get for self-authoring, and we can go through that in a bit. Also, you know, the relevance of the content. The IOE website was really difficult to author, and therefore difficult to keep up to date. So the content was just falling by the wayside, and considering who's looking at this site, which is prospective students, prospective employees, the media, politicians, policymakers, then you know, it's important that it's up to date, and then of course of high quality. It needs to be user friendly and useful. It needs to be easy to read and easy to flick through in the however many lines of text that people read before they shuffle on to the next page and click through. So there is a sort of it needs to be sort of easy to digest. Also need to stay on top of all the content. So we have a lot of content, a lot of activity at the IOE. So there needs to be a system that the IOE can at least manage themselves, so that they stay on top of what content have we just recently put up, where else could we use it, what are we celebrating, what's news, how do we align some of this, the great work that we're doing with the courses that are provided through Massey, and so and how do we stay on top of this? So this is part of this self-authoring concept, includes a sort of offline management that we're doing through spreadsheets, and that's why that you're being asked to fill out a spreadsheet, because everything is now, it's all done in the cloud using spreadsheets to try and make it as easy as possible. And also, finally, there are new research clusters, research centers, research websites, and always new projects, research projects that are coming up, and that they should be in sync with the IOE main website. They could be hosted from the IOE website if we were really organized, and the more places that it exists on the net, the more likely it is for people to be able to find it. Yeah, so those were the kind of 5 main goals of the reboot. We had some requirements to balance the website off of. The impact that, first and foremost, the impact that the IOE has in the community, for students, for the beneficiaries of sort of quality research, partnerships that are formed inside and outside of the university need to be relevant, need to be 21st century, up to date with what's going on. It needs to show that the IOE is got the finger on the pulse, and a website is a great sales window. Looking at the outcomes, what are the outcomes of the IOE? The impactful research and impactful practice, scholarship and teaching. What are those outcomes? How do we present those outcomes? Very much under the umbrella of bicultural perspectives on education and teaching and research, and the strong Māori and Pacifica presence within the IOE and Massey need to be represented. Absolutely. The prestige of coming to study at the IOE, and so on. So this has to come out of this is more the purpose of the site, is to present the IOE under this light, or these lights. Also, the new site was to recognize the audience who is actually looking at this site, and I know it's notoriously difficult to find the IOE homepage, let alone what we do, or how does people come to find us or know about us. So we kind of broke down the different groups that would be interested in sort of a high quality content site, such as prospective and current students, expertise searches, staff inquiries, national and international interests, from industry, the media, other academics, other faculties around the world. We also need to link through to our activity in the community, particularly our research clusters, but also, for example, Tātai Angatu, CERM, equity in education, and upcoming ones. So need to cement those in. That's an IOE project, and bring them together. And of course, you were competing with other websites, other institutes of education from other universities around New Zealand. So you need to stay current. It's important. So I won't don't worry too much about the restrictions and solutions. We'll just move on to, now hang on, I just have to shut the door because it's raining. So hopefully that explains why we're doing this. And then now I want to move on is, what have we asked you to do? What are you being asked to do? So there's a number of faculty have been identified as owning the content, I guess, or the future content for pages within the new website layout. And I might just actually show you what the new layout was hoping to look like. So you may have already had a look at the new format for the IOE and all of Massey website. It's more sort of easier for people with devices to use, I guess. So this is a really rough mock-up, cut and paste, screen captures, and it's just an idea of what the new IOE homepage could look like, and really the layout. So how these different spaces, capture and group content, like content. So at the top we have our banner, and then we'll have a message from our dean, or from John O'Neill, the head of the IOE. And then we don't have any control over this part here. There is now a research expertise page for the IOE, and then of course our study programs, which are controlled centrally by Massey. So we can actually add content to our own programs, which I'll talk about a bit later. However, this is always a link out of our site currently, and there are legal reasons for that around giving good advice on pathways through the IOE offerings. However, one way that we can say something is through the real and true stories of people who are either within those pathways or experiencing those pathways, teachers, students, and alumni. So this is why, and I'll talk about profiles in a bit, but the profiles are kind of a way to tell the stories to prospective students, ourselves telling our own stories, without interfering with some of these legal issues around making recommendations ourselves about pathways. Anyway, we also have finally a little explore bar. This again is just mandatory. Wouldn't worry too much about it. And now these are the new. If you can remember the old IOE webpage, it had 9 boxes with different titles, and then the content was nested within those. So it's we've kind of refreshed these headings for IOE activities, and it's going to look a bit like this. So the first one would be career pathways. Oh, there we go. Career pathways in education, talking about undergraduate, postgraduate study, or undergraduate study, and more broadly postgraduate study. Really sort of doubling down on alumni stories, how you can, different ways of funding your pathway through education, study at the IOE, speaking to distance students and mature students, and people who are studying and working, and really the just some of the sort of more nuts and bolts of interest around what it's like to study at the IOE, beyond the undergraduate courses. The next page, the next section will be professional education. So this is a much more directed at the sort of the clusters of of professional education offered at the IOE. So those are the ITE, specialist, SLT, counseling, Ed Psych, and short courses. So those are really the postgrad, I guess, or some of it's postgrad, or again, sort of pathways through speech language therapy and counseling, and then more the sort of postgrad options for teaching specialists and Ed Psych. It'll be tabbed, so we'll be able to add as many as we like without taking up too much space there, with maybe a little sort of a promo or one of these little roll-throughs here. The next one would be then research expertise, and I know that we've already covered that there. We have our own research expertise page, but this is a bit more. That one's a bit more Massey controlled. This one will be our one. So here we're going to place our research clusters, our research projects, student research, and student teacher partnerships. I guess, or projects coming out of those partnerships. Places where clusters like Equity Through Education or CIM and upcoming clusters can really develop their own web space as well as the independent web pages that they have. Next is a new one, Culture and Partnerships, really putting a big focus on Māori and Pacifica at the IOE and Massey, and also our international students. Research partnerships, not only student teacher but also in the local and community, nationally or internationally. Also with industry, so a bit more. I guess that's where that impact and outcomes really start coming through, and we can tell some more of those sorts of stories, and also maybe inviting the student body onto the site so that they can have a say, and as well, and speak directly to students and prospective students. There'll be a space for Tātai Angatu directly within on the homepage, so they can really talk about the work that they're doing, and again, perhaps incorporate some of their own website content back into the IOE site now that it's going to be a bit more easier to do so. We'll have an about section, a lot more developed than the one that we currently have, talking about the history, our accreditation, especially linking out through that, talking about some of the more sort of fun stuff, like scholarship of teaching and learning, explaining what that is, and 21st century learning, or about being Tiriti led, lifelong, life-wide, life deep learning, and so on. Yep. We'll have a Twitter feed from the leadership team, which will really sort of help us be able to provide news to our to the visitors. Where previously there was a tricky, but this would be a live Twitter feed, so hopefully that will be helpful, and the leadership team and anyone they invite can come in and keep that really nice and current, particularly upcoming lectures, visiting academics who are coming to the IOE and collaborating, and doing talks. How do we get that information out there to the public, not just within an email, a group email, but actually anyone. And then down the bottom, staff and careers is a mandatory page where we're going to be doing staff profiles, as well as really appealing to prospective faculty, where they and also those external visitors who are looking for research expertise or wanting to talk to specific faculty members who have expertise in a certain area, and so on. This is another mandatory section, the taking a viewer through to the College of Humanities, which is our overarching, what we fall under. Yep. And then a contact page with just a bit more information for students, prospective students calling the admin block. But we haven't really talked that one through, but we'll see how that goes. There'll be a contact page there anyway. Okay. So yep. So we have a bunch of many faculty who have already been sent out a spreadsheet for them to look at and fill out, and we're going to go into I'm going to go into that now. I think I'll do a different video, just in case this is too long or you just want to jump straight to the good stuff. Okay.